Welcome back, everyone, to our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reaction commentary series here on Red Spotlight. I'm Alexis, and I'm joined by David Francisco for our weekly deep dive of all things S.H.I.E.L.D. The longtime S.H.I.E.L.D. fan that wants to come back on here and talk about endlessly of this wonderful show. So, we're gearing up toward the end of Season 2 here. Last time, we had the episode Afterlife, I want to say, right? And this week, we have Melinda, which, for longtime fans of the show, well, for any fan of the show, this is kind of a monumental episode. For one, it's one of the signature May episodes of the show, but it also, I mean, just generally speaking, it is one of the signature episodes of the show because of what happens in this episode. We finally get to find out what happened in Bahrain with Agent May. And I think we finally get to find out what really is behind the woman who we know is Melinda May. That's right. This is episode 17 of season 2, Melinda, written by DJ Doyle and directed by Gary A. Brown. Broadcast on April 14th, 2015 to 4.04 million viewers. Returning, of course, Clark Gregg, Ming-Na Wen, Chloe Bennett. In the cast crew, Elizabeth Henstridge, Nick Blood, Adrienne Palicki, as well as Kyle MacLachlan as Kel, Henry Simmons as Mac, Deechan Luckman as Jai-Ying, Jamie Harris as Gordon, Luke Mitchell as Lincoln Campbell, Ruth Negga as Raina, Christine Adams as Anne Weaver, Derek Phillips as O'Brien, Terrell Tilford as Hart, Winter Av Zolli as Ava Bakalov, Chris Lemch as Ethan Johnson, Blair Underwood returns as Andrew Gardner, and of course, the infamous powered person herself, Ava Akers as Katya Balakov. Let me see here. Ming-Na Wen was not told of her character Melinda May's backstory in the series until she read the script for this episode. Executive producer Jeffrey Bell talked about exploring May's backstory in the episode after it being teased since the start of the series, saying she's a very different May in this episode. This is the May before this incident happened. And so there are qualities that Ming-Na brings to the role. Seeing her married back in the day, we've already met Andrew, but to sort of see what May was like back at the time is a different color. On balancing this backstory with the series' present-day story and integrating the two, Bell said, "We have a backstory, but the backstory needs to be compelling enough so that you don't mind it being a backstory, so that when you come back to the present story, you're equally interested. Anytime you're telling 2 or 3 stories, you're always worried about one being more interested than the other." Paging Dave Filoni in some of his previous works. And I think this episode does a very nice job in that you're happy to be in any of them. Which is, by the way, look what Jeff Bell, basically, not in the same words, but I think last week I more or less said the same thing, which is like what S.H.I.E.L.D. always did a very good job of, is like, no matter what story they're telling, let's say like any episode can juggle like 2 or 3 storylines, but they're all interesting, and you're invested in all of them. And I think a really good TV show does that.
For sure.
This is the... Oh, this is not anything that worth mentioning there. Okay. Yeah, this is a big one. Before we get to some comments, David, we do have a little bit of a change today. Before actually sitting down to do this commentary, let's just say you brushed up on some things. So you're more or less knowing of things that are going to happen. So, just so you know about that. And of course, before we get into the actual episode itself for the reaction, let's go ahead and go to David for some comments, if any, that we had from last time, which I believe would be for episode 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
15, the one door closes. It's just one from Silva saying, "Greetings, fellow agents. Just sending you good energy to heal up from all your recent trials." Which, you remember, we were just going on and on about.
It was a long month.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, thank you, Silva.
No, we definitely appreciate that for sure, because, for a while there, it was like, oh God, so much happened. But it's crazy, considering how so much happened now. It seems as if the dust has settled a little bit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see.
For sure for me, because I was actually like, my back would hurt just sitting in this chair. But now I'm like a whole lot better. So, slowly but surely, I'm feeling better.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, without any further ado, should we go ahead and start?
Yeah.
All right, this is going to be episode 17. Melinda.
Previously on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'll take you to a place where you can be with people like us. You can learn about yourself.
So, David,
your gift.
As it turned out...
Working with the cavalry.
I love that.
I've heard the stories. What went down?
Wow, it was a long time ago. Right now, they're showing us some footage from season 1.
Herself.
I'm so sorry. I just totally lost track of what I was going to say.
No, it's fine. I forgot to change my audio to, or at least like the computer audio into this mic, so the speakers were catching up picking up the episode. So I was freaking out a second.
Hey, you got a family to make. There's only one way to do that. I'm dedicated to the cause.
So this episode is, we can say so much about it, but like off the bat, we're seeing a very different May. Mm-hmm. Look how she's standing. Look how, first of all, how much more she's smiling to begin with.
Maybe you and I can
look how
somewhere warm,
willing she is to being a kind of a loving spouse. Like just the fact that she likes somebody else putting their hands on her and she's accepting it and not recoiling is a very different May than the one that we've come to know. But also, what's not so different is this is a really good sense of how long Phil has been around and has been in her life.
Best security system in the world.
Just automatically walking in the house, knowing that it was open. Mm-hmm. And I love how May, by the way, excused herself, was like, oh, he's always early. I'm going to go get ready. And then she's like, and then here she comes coming back. So you can tell how many times that Phil's been over.
Come on, Coulson. We're going to be late.
I'm early.
It's funny because like in a later episode, these two were basically like, without telling the other, revealed to have had some kind of a thing for each other, but they never said anything. Mm-hmm. And this will be a future episode, but it ends with them saying about next time we hang out, let's take it more serious or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That never happened because she ended up hitting it off really well with Andrew, and then the rest is history.
S.H.I.E.L.D.'s putting every dime into the Triskelion.
But it's not how Phil is like, well... Okay, well, I guess he's my friend too.
Released with powered people, we form a team. Take Earth's mightiest to find out if they're heroes.
And you mentioned this because you want my help?
Which automatically should signal to everybody watching at home, Phil really enjoys working with May. So that's one thing. But then also, notice how May is carrying herself with what's going on here. Like, she's acting kind of like she's enjoying the mission. She's like, does she remind you of somebody? A little bit, as far as you know, which is what Coulson said before. It's like, basically saying that May used to be a lot like Sky, in that sense. And then also, I love how so much is happening in this sequence with like, you're thrown a little bit with like this old who May used to be personality, and then Coulson throws in the whole. By the way, Nick Fury has like tapped me to start doing the Avengers Initiative. Do you want to help me with this? Of course, Phil would go to May for this because he goes to May for everything, right? Well, almost everything. We'll see in this episode that there are some things he kept from her, which he absolutely should not have. But I love how all of that is happening. You're like, interesting little nugget there. You don't really notice it too much that they're using the same set. But it's this is a show that uses the exact same sets, and that's not something that I think should be like, I don't know, ashamed of. But it's just like it automatically, you bought the fact that we were on the same, like, basically airplane, but we're in the past. So
Contact has been
that's
minimal.
something.
He wasn't an active asset.
So I want to ask you, David, how do you feel about this? Because I feel like, if anything, I know we've been saying
Do you expect us to believe he's not part
for
of
like
Beta
months
protocol?
at this point, the arc that Coulson goes through is that and I think he already has expressed some regrets, right? And 2 weeks ago when he said, like, you know, with a coup happening, it makes you question the choices you've made. So already, because Real Shield blew the door open, he's like, maybe I have made some mistakes. And that's the whole arc this season, is that Coulson needs to find out that he needs to be his own director, not a copycat of Fury, right?
Operations. Take your entire current budget and match it with this one program.
How do you feel about this right here? Because right now, May is beginning to realize, oh, fuck. There are some pretty sketchy or shady things that even I don't know about. And here she is, handed this intel by these people who, up until this moment, she was like, you guys are fucking idiots. And this is the beginning of a turn where there are these seeds of doubt that are being planted in her, which, by the way, that's a lot to say, because May and Coulson's relationship and their trust is like marrow deep.
Everything's shaking already,
So,
vibrating at its own natural.
from a writing standpoint, what ends up happening is that powered people come into play. And we know all bets are off. May does not play with powered people. This episode will show us why she doesn't play with powered people. So when that little thread is introduced, then she's like, I think, you know, I like Coulson and all, but he cannot be playing with powered people, because that's not a really good thing. So I'm going to ask you, ultimately, like,
I don't know. I'm not the one with the gift. I just work here. You think I can
it
hear
just,
the
like,
stone?
I don't know. It feels, I'm not saying unbelievable. I think it totally fits with what, like, Coulson was trying to do, but putting myself into it, like, why would you keep that stuff from May?
May,
Right?
and then the other team members, like, at least like the ones that he was with in season 1.
Yes, exactly.
It really makes no sense, especially because we know what data protocol is and all that. Why?
Can you hear it? No, not the stone, the mountain. It's the loudest thing here.
Keep it a secret in the first place, especially with Fitz around you now. Like, I can understand maybe with Fitz not wanting to tell him because he's not 100%. He's not gonna give, like,
in control, maybe. Yeah.
No, he's not. You know, he's not gonna be like Shield, like Tony Stark, where he's like, oh, I can make improvements on some things and all that, blah blah blah. It's like he's not the same as he was, so I can understand not telling him. Everyone else though, actually no, he's still too new. I was gonna say Mac. He could have told Mac, but he's still pretty new, so I guess that's understandable.
The awesome moment here with the music.
Yeah.
And by the way, doesn't this, not that effect is like real, although it's a pretty good effect actually, like we're looking at, you know.
I moved a mountain.
But doesn't it add much more authenticity, emotion, and feeling that they're actually shooting in a real place, in a real location? So obviously they're not in China, but we have come into some information by one of our followers that this is an actual place, an actual compound somewhere in California, which, you know what? Good for them going on location, doesn't it? Although, if you go watch a Marvel movie this week in theaters, you will see a sequence in which it's meant to be outside, and guess what? They actually built a set, and yet it looks like it's all freaking green screen.
I was gonna say, even with the budget they're working on, you know, they're able to do it. Don't understand why you can't do that. Marvel Studios, like, or Marvel movies, whatever.
Yeah. Sorry, David, we cut you off what you were saying about, like, Coulson not telling May especially. I think May and Sky are the ones who are like, why? Why? Although, really, that's the lesson for him to learn. And going forward, that changes completely. Like, this whole decision making of like him holding all the secrets.
I know you've been on the run, but S.H.I.E.L.D. can protect you.
By the way, do you see what happened there?
Yeah.
Did you see what she did?
Yeah. That's scary.
Because you don't know what you're seeing there until after you've seen the episode. The way she's just like, you know, patting people. You wouldn't, again, it's so like presented as innocent, you wouldn't think anything of it. It was just a little girl playing around with like complete strangers. Until you think about it and you're like, but why is she touching everybody in that exact same way?
Not only that though, but everyone else kind of not reacting normally.
Yeah, not at all.
Because you think, you know, if a little girl taps you or, you know, anyone taps you, you're kind of like, wait, what? And then you would notice a little girl, oh, it's a little girl tapping. It's like, oh, that's adorable, I guess. But instead, like, she does it and they're all just like, ignore her. So it, you know, it's very instant. You wouldn't think about it, but when you do think about it, you're kind of like, oh, shoot. There's something weird going on here.
I'll walk away from this. Stay back! Do not follow us!
That was uncalled for. What the fuck? You just shoot that one guy.
I know.
Eat like crazy, then rest up. This afternoon will be much harder.
Then the
Although,
avalanche?
this compound, wherever they're shooting, like, can I go there for some R&R? Like, that actually looks like a place to go on a visit.
For sure.
I'm very proud of your work today.
And by the way, we haven't mentioned it, we haven't talked about it too much, because Jiaying has only been back in Sky's life for like if an episode, if that. But like off the bat, there's like built-in chemistry there. And yeah, the way she said she was so proud of herself there.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but Coulson didn't just keep the specifics of Theta Protocol from you. That gut punch that you felt today, that's how we felt for months. I swore to build S.H.I.E.L.D. back up the right way.
It is, I don't know, it's kind of hilarious, but then also kind of reasonable. The parent, ultimately this is like this paranoia of like, what is Coulson hiding? What is this Theta Protocol? What is this big massive thing that he's pouring so much money into that no one is in on? And if you remember, what it actually is that helicarrier that Nick Fury uses in Age of Ultron. And then the episode after, they were like, okay, well, what now? I mean, they do kind of like end up with egg on their face, but like also it's like, why is that a secret that needs to be kept from people? Right? Like it's a lifeboat procedure. It's like, okay, it's a helicarrier. Like, that's the secret? Like, maybe it was because, I don't know, Nick Fury insisted on it? Like,
Here's the thing, though, too. At the same time, you know, they say Coulson's not a bad guy, okay, but what...
You'll get through this.
Stay out of it, Sparkplug.
Why do you have to be so, like, paranoid?
Abrasive?
Abrasive, paranoid about it.
Yeah.
It's like...
They literally broke into the...
What are you expecting Theta Protocol to be? Exactly, you know? Like, him keeping Mike Peterson a secret, that's a pretty bad idea to keep that a secret from everyone else. Because, like, you know, they could all use him, too, in certain moments if they're, like, it's really needed and all that.
Did you miss out on the gifts layered below?
It's a tough change.
What do you know about changes?
Let her vent
you know, they should at least know it's like, hey, we got a power person on our side. And it does seem bad for him to keep someone that powerful a secret. You know, it's like, oh, if you know about him, like, you can use him whenever you want, you know?
By the way, this is a really nice scene that we have here, and it touches a little bit on a bit of a divide here, which I guess you would get into it. I imagine at some point in X-Men comics or in Human comics, they would get into this aspect of it, but like we touched on it pretty head on here. Gordon is Raina's guide, and what Raina and Gordon have in common is that their inhuman changes are on the outside. Whereas with Lincoln, you know, he was trying to comfort Raina and, you know, he was coming from a good place, but Gordon was like, shut up, because it means nothing coming from you, no offense, because only your inside's changed. Your outside, I mean, you're still a really attractive guy. The rest of us here, we legitimately are we transformed so much that we're just almost unrecognizable, and our transformations keep us from going out in the real world. I mean, Gordon can pass with some shades on, but Raina, No,
No,
that,
can't
no.
hide it.
So, but I also, it's a really interesting contrast how, Reyna's having a really hard time adjusting with the thing that she's always wanted.
All operators, check in.
What was that? Were they taken out? Did they take themselves out?
That's scary, right? Because like that didn't last, what, 10 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
And they all just went down?
I play a note. You hold it. Okay.
By the way, this sequence here, when it happened, I was like, oh my God, this is already happening? Like, basically, at the end of this sequence, like, she reveals to her, like, I'm your mom. Which, by the way, is a tough scene to film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because at this point, if you're the writers and you're also the actors, if you're thinking about it from the viewer's point of view, well, in the back of their heads, they're going to be comparing it to Cal and Sky's first scene. And so, in some ways, it comes out a little bit out of left field. Well, not out of left field. It feels like a reveal like this would happen toward the end of an episode. Not so much toward, like, not even halfway through an episode. But I guess at this point, the writers are operating under the assumption that, clearly Jiaying and Sky are already feeling like there's a connection between the two of them. And perhaps it's better to get it out. And I guess from their mindset, it's best to say it and get it out there now because they already want to. They've been wanting to say, hey, you're my daughter. Are you my mom? From the very first time they saw each other. Think back to last week's episode. Sky, like, literally jumped when she saw her and heard her voice. And she couldn't put it into words, but she was like, I know you. I don't know how I know you, but I know you.
Back for that?
Well, I tried some of the scotch too, but yes.
And then here we get some insight into Sky's, quite frankly, miserable existence as a foster kid.
I got the news on my birthday once, which is a complete farce because I don't even...
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn. It is kind of a curse. Like, it all kind of ends in disaster.
...with me. Why do you care if I stay or go, and why are
July
you...
2nd.
And then there it is, enough of this. She's like, okay, here it is.
Deep down, I think you knew.
I was too afraid to hope.
Which is really, yeah.
After your father pieced me back together, we scoured the earth. We were ruthless in hunting for you.
She's not exaggerating there. She's not exaggerating when she says that they were ruthless.
No, I was gonna say that's a cool little reaction. Where she's like, when your dad pieced me back together, she was just like, wait, the fuck?
Yeah, well, I mean, because it got to be a quick explanation. How are you alive?
Yeah.
We saw that scene, that brilliant scene with the de-aging where he was like,
maybe I could help protect
like she was
others,
gone.
So I came here.
But yeah, and it also explains the marks, or I guess the scars that she has.
No, you're mistaken. That's a design for a hybrid capacitor.
No, it's Deathlock's supercharged battery pack. And that may not be the only thing he kept from us.
Again, another little reaction when she tells her that she's been working on Deathlock. And she's just like, wait, fuck. That's a big secret right there. Why the hell didn't you tell me?
Simmons should know that.
Yes, like...
For red tape, they want us to wait.
For how long?
The Bahrainis are pissed. I think they're about 2 inches from bombing the building and calling it a night.
Which, by the way, imagine if that had happened. That would have been an even bigger disaster. Because they go bombing in, that Inhuman is just going to like, yay, like more people to infect. It's like trying to attack the smile demon. It's like, you're not going to really win there. Unless you know for a fact who it is and just take her out like what May did.
My name is Phil Coulson. I represent the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement Logistics Division, and you are about to enter...
I love when he says the full name, though. I love it.
And it's consistent. They don't call it S.H.I.E.L.D. till... Oh, wait, no, they called it S.H.I.E.L.D. after Iron Man, though. Never mind.
He did, didn't he?
I guess it takes place before Iron Man.
Did you say biological weapon?
Yes, I did.
No, at the end of Iron Man, during Iron Man, he said the whole name. But at
yes,
the end of
and
it,
at the end, it's S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, so I guess technically this might take place before Iron Man.
I see what you mean. Yeah. No, it is before Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, it is, for sure.
Hey.
Drew, they have
because,
okay.
In Captain Marvel, it's revealed that Nick Fury started the Avengers Initiative in the 90s after Carol Danvers. And I think this is supposed to take place in the 90s, this episode here, or most of what happens here with May and Bahrain.
Do good, Melinda. But come home.
So, probably a little bit after Captain Marvel, but a ways before Iron Man. By the way, can we just like, we don't say it too often because we take her for granted, but like, Ming-Na Wen to do these scenes, and her stunt doubles obviously, but for Ming-Na especially to do a lot of, Ming does a lot of her own stunts, but like, I think she was like almost 60 by the time the show ended. So for most of the show, she was in her 50s doing this shit. Which is like, doing it in our 20s right now, it would be like impossible.
I for sure can't do it. I'm my age.
No. Oh, no. No.
What the hell are you doing, sir? We have to go.
I need your pain.
I need your pain. I need your pain.
And at that point, I just like walk away slowly. Yeah, no.
Coulson met with your ex-husband. They've been consulting for a while.
What's Coulson even need with 100 bunk beds?
We think he's building another base.
Which, by the way, the idea is...
Coulson's determined to explore people with powers.
Best intentions aside, underestimating powers is playing with fire.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that, like, I think tips are over the line. But at that point, it's like, this bombshell, and then you throw in her ex-husband, and you have to keep in mind, he had a beard in that photo. So that means that Coulson saw Andrew months before he was like to her, hey, you want to talk to Andrew so we can get him in and help Skye? Like, just lying to her face the whole time.
Especially Andrew, because like when she went up to him, he was already like, no, I'm not going to do what you told me to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, you already been working with Coulson. Like, don't you think, like, if she's here, Coulson probably sent her, it's probably a good reason to, and all that. It's like, why would you deny her instantly?
Or maybe he was like, if I involve myself any further, it's going to come to light that I've already been meeting with Coulson, and that's not going to end well for Coulson because Andrew understands that he needs to keep that a secret because, of course, the whole patient confidentiality is very important to him. So at no point would he ever tell May that on the side, he's been seeing Coulson. But I can also see your point.
No, yeah.
Like, it's like...
But then also, them theorizing, like, why they needed, like, 100 bunk beds, why Coulson needed 100 bunk beds and all that. Again, you guys know he's a good guy. Why would you think the worst scenario?
Paranoia. I think it's
like
they can't get over the fact, and you know what? Maybe it's because we are privileged, right? We've spent all this time with him. But if you take the perspective of like Mac or Gonzalez, outside looking in situation. Wait, what? Coulson was resurrected using alien blood, and they gave him memories, and they messed with his head, and then these memories drove him crazy to the point of writing on the wall, which then led to them finding an alien city. Like, it looks bad. That by itself. And when it's already that bad, mixed with what he's lying, it's just paranoia.
It's happened before. There was a woman once. She didn't trust my judgment. So she stole a batch of Terrigen crystals.
Which, by the way, here's the point where it's like, wait, are you telling me these stories are linked together? This is the reveal in the episode. It's like, oh shit. Oh shit. It's a pretty brutal kill, by the way. Like, oh shit. And then, hey, blood. I'm gonna update the blood count.
Snap out of it. I like the pain.
And then here's the reveal.
Katya was too young. She went insane. With one touch, she leached off emotions like a parasite.
Which happens to May in season 7. With one touch, her emotions changed. which is, again, this connection is insane later on. Like, the same thing would happen to her. She wouldn't go insane, but she would become an empath, basically. A similar ability.
Take my hand. Give me your pain. I need a new mother. Take your pain.
Which, by the way, I don't know if it's foreshadowing, but she ends up becoming a mother to an inhuman girl later on in the series. So, again, just
Full
come
circle.
on.
It's
Yeah, everything, all of it. But here, gosh, you see her, you know what she's going to do. She's you already know going in, when the reveal happens, oh no, she's going to kill the girl. And it just breaks her. It completely breaks her. And it happened to come at the exact moment when she and Andrew were wanting to start a family.
I tried.
It's all right. You have to let the girl go, Melinda. You did good. Let the girl go.
The exact line that May said to the other girl in episode 9 of season 1. That girl that was being like haunted, basically. She was like, to Tobias, I guess he got like vaporized or whatever it was, but he kept coming in and out of dimensions, and she was telling him, you gotta let the girl go. Let the girl go, Tobias. And then she tells Coulson later on, I just told him what you said to me, same thing you said to me in Bahrain. Let the girl go. And then that basically was the end of their marriage. And that was the end of May, basically. Like, this was... She couldn't take it. By the way, Ming-Na gets a lot of credit for her performance this week. But... Of course, with that flashback to Bahrain, the whole sequence, that was incredible. But like, I think what's a little bit overlooked is the subtlety of how much she can say without saying a word. By the looks of present day May, and just like the feeling of betrayal, of just like,
especially with like a switch personality.
Yeah,
like it could have been different with her past self. How that. Look of betrayal
all is forgiven
in her face. So
no,
that's really good.
But he never gave up on you. He deserves something for that.
Pay very close attention to the score when it begins to play, because this is basically, once the scene it goes from awkward to like comforting, which is involving Cal. It always has to tiptoe that same dance, but it'll be like the family theme that's been around since the first episode.
I want to thank you, both of you, for giving me another shot.
Not this right now, but you'll hear it.
I've never had that before. That was possible because of you.
That's all I really wanted for you.
The acting this episode.
It's so good.
Just right.
I don't know if you can tell. I'm trying to hold back tears, honestly.
Like, yeah.
Especially for Cal right now, man. It's I've said it many times, like his story is just so fucking tragic.
Here's the music.
Big moon in the sky. 1988. Huh? You know, your mother, she actually cleaned before she told me. You see, there was only...
The family reunited from the very first episode, and here we are.
I dream of Sky and her father at dinner, a bouquet of daisies, and she's so happy.
Then we had to get you to the hospital. And when it was all fine and calm, I, of course, was just...
It's not a dream.
She's the clairvoyant.
Cool literally, that's such a cool reveal, though, too.
Yeah. And then this whole episode went by, and I don't know if you realized it, but like one of our cast members didn't really make an appearance up until right now. Fitz. At the last minute, I was like, oh yeah, Fitz is in the show too.
You in a bathroom with one of those electric hand dryers?
Oh, yes.
You're gonna be okay, mate.
First of all, that's a cool thing that the toolbox can do.
Yeah.
Just go into any... Now, was it just like a Shield specific tablet?
Well, yes, they mentioned it was Coulson's personal tablet, which that one would have direct, I think, access to the toolbox, which at this point would be Coulson's. I would say it is one of the biggest regrets of the history of this show that they never actually showed us the following sequence. Like, okay, what do you mean? Is there an electric hand dryer? How is that going to help in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
I would have really have loved to have seen that.
Yeah,
and that didn't quite happen.
Oh well.
What can you do? Well, that was a pretty big episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
With everything going on, you would think that the 17th episode of 22 episodes, I should say, ordinarily most shows wouldn't dare like do a backstory this late in the game. But I think what's beautiful is that, one, it's great. Two, the whole series had basically been building up to this episode. Not just from the perspective of, like, Melinda May, but also Skye. Like, from episode 1, it's all kind of converged in this spot, in this moment with the reunion of Skye's family. And then also understanding the tragic backstory of Melinda May. I mean, it truly is one of the best episodes for sure of this season, maybe of the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
Just simply from an acting showcase, like, I mean, Ming-Na Wen, of course, Chloe Bennett, Kyle MacLachlan, Deechin Lockman, just great freaking stuff here. Even some subtle performances there. I mean, I love seeing the interactions that present May had with Simmons and her being like what the fuck face, and then also her moments and interactions with Bobby, which is like, see, this is what I was talking about. And I don't think Coulson's a bad, but look, I think ultimately it just comes down to the real Shield people were a bit misguided, but there were some, I guess you could say, valid points, because ultimately there really wouldn't have been any need for a coup if this was just out in the open to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like, you'd think on paper this kind of reads like an episode that like takes a break from the action, but it kind of does two things at once. It goes back in time to tell a story that somehow reinforces everything that's happening in the main present day storyline, from the real Shield to the Inhumans. How?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Like that's the, I think people today, people who might be listening are thinking to themselves like, well, you do it. How though? Like, a lot of shows of the genre that Shield is in today's day and age would never. It's a really like impossible tightrope to balance here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that they were able to just do it as the 17th of 22 episodes is, like, I don't know, pretty freaking impressive to me. And this episode is one of the many showcases for why it was just kind of, in all honesty, detestable that so many people just like overlooked the show and kind of like treated it as something that was like significantly less than anything else going on. When like the character work in this episode alone like blows away at least half of the MCU movies? Maybe even more at this point. Like, it's crazy. So, oh god, David, your reaction.
No, yeah, this is great for sure. I say like every single time, but like the fact that they put in like little clues, or I guess foreshadowing moments, I guess,
sure,
of what happened in Bahrain and all that, and the fact that they were able to work it, into like the main plot of this episode and all that. I mean, that's not just this episode, for like honestly the entire series, like how to connect them both and all that, or the entire season. Sorry, like it generally is impressive and all that. But I love the fact though that they were very patient into like bringing in this story, because they had no idea probably that they were going to put Inhumans. They were probably going to wait for like the okay to use mutants or something, or the okay to maybe just put someone else, maybe like they could have used it for anything else. Honestly, they could have brought in some other Marvel character that had a daughter, and Melinda might have been the one to have killed it, and then you have like a villain of the season trying to go after her or something like that. Like it really could have been anything. As long as it was a superpowered person, it could have been anything. And the fact that they were patient enough to wait for this moment to give us this backstory, to give us this episode and all that, impressive for the writers.
And again, just like this is a large ensemble. Again, this is an ensemble show, and of course we had our main focus with May and Sky and her family, but like think about who else. Like there were still bits and pieces of other characters. We got some movement on Raina and Gordon, a little bit of like a touch of like is Lincoln obviously feeling some things for Sky, and how obviously Lincoln already knew at the end of this episode that like that Jiaying was Sky's mom, because Sky told him. Like, what does that tell you? Like, there's obviously some, like, she trusts him already enough to the point that she told him that. After she told her mom, nobody will ever know. Well, I guess that didn't include Lincoln in that sense. We even got a little bit of movement on just the developing trio, the emerging trio that we'll spend some time with in these next 2 episodes of Coulson, Hunter, and Fitz. So that's fun. And then a lot of insight when it comes to the perspective of the real S.H.I.E.L.D. people. Again, and also there was so much going on. Not everybody even appeared. I mean, Fitz was barely here. Gonzalez was not here, I don't think. And we didn't see him this week. So it's like Mac had what, like a scene. So it's giving us just enough, but we're at the point now where it's like we really have assembled a large ensemble. So much so that we haven't even gotten to the Hydra characters yet. They weren't even here at all, which we'll get into, I think, next week or the week thereafter when Ward comes back into the picture. And then, by the way, and this part in a couple of weeks might be a little bit less successful. We'll see how that feels when we rewatch it. But like, in the midst of all this, as they're writing this season, Joss Whedon is writing Avengers: Age of Ultron, and that Theater Protocol literally connects right into that movie. But the burden is on S.H.I.E.L.D. to, in the middle of their whole like 2 big storylines, we have to drop this thing, that major canon event that happens in the MCU of Sokovia basically blowing up and falling out of the sky, and then Ultron and all that stuff. And so, looking back on it, there are aspects that are actually quite a bit awkward in terms of like where it fits into the story. I think what makes up for it is how successful that finale is. That is so, I mean, the finale of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 2, I remember even reading a review. It might even be AV Club, but I remember reading a review saying that the season 2 finale of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was way better than Age of Ultron. Which, by the way, I don't hate Age of Ultron. I actually happen to quite enjoy that movie.
Same.
So it's like I'm not really one of these people that likes to knock Age of Ultron whatsoever. But I thought that was actually a compliment to the show. Not so, although I think perhaps some people would have intended it to be an insult to the movie for a lowly S.H.I.E.L.D. episode to surpass an Avengers movie, whatever the case may be. But because the finale is so good, it kind of saves a little bit of the awkwardness of inserting it. Or maybe you might feel differently, because ultimately real S.H.I.E.L.D. is leading to this grand conspiracy, and then it ends up being, it was a helicarrier. and then he was like, it's kind of a womp womp situation, and we'll relive those moments in the next couple of weeks. So I guess we'll see. But like, it's a tall order because when you see Melinda this episode and how good of a job they do of interweaving everything on top of everything else, they have to throw this little thing in here, and it was like, yeah. But this probably is the last time this season anyway, where they are practically a little bit mandated or forced to feel mandated to squeeze in a major storyline that's happening from the movies. In season 5, they mentioned Thanos, and they mentioned basically Infinity War happening off screen, which was cool at the time. Because, of course, who would not want to be connected to that big event happening? Yeah, but at the same time, it did make things a little bit awkward where it never really went addressed. Okay, well, season 6 and 7, where does that take place? How does that take place? How many years thereafter? That's still proven to be a pretty big headache when we get to that. So we're not quite there yet. But yeah. Obviously, much more to say here. Let me go ahead. We'll play Ami for last. Let's go ahead and get to some of the written stuff that I have here from Eric Goldman at IGN. The cavalry begins. This week's S.H.I.E.L.D. did a good job playing with some expectations. At this point in the MCU, if you introduce a beautiful, mysterious Russian woman, we're programmed to think Black Widow. But no, Ava had nothing to do with the Black Widow program, but was in fact an Inhuman. From season 1, we already knew that May got all the captured agents in Bahrain out of that building. I believe they even tell that story in the second episode, right? Episode 2, they said it when they were all like tied up at the back of the bus. Yeah, that's when they first mentioned it.
Yeah.
Which didn't bode well for that little girl, as we knew something happened that changed May in a big way. Still, the fact that the little girl wasn't possessed by her mom's power, but was the one controlling everyone and was basically evil, and that May had to shoot and kill to save her people, was still very effective. Yes, it was laid on thick with May and Drew at the same time. And Andrew at the same point in their lives wanting to have a kid, and then May having to kill a kid, but it still worked and certainly was sufficient as something that would have messed her up. Ming-Na Wen did great work here too, showing May in 2 very different times in her lives and the event that would have such an impact on her. I also liked that, except for that final scene, we didn't see present-day Coulson at all this episode, and he was only kept in the flashbacks. And it was a nice MCU continuity touch to have 2008 Coulson, presumably a few months from the events of Iron Man. By the way, this review was written in 2015. This is still years before Captain Marvel. So I'm sure Eric would rewrite this if he had the knowledge ahead of time. So that one was thinking like it was a little bit before. But he was saying it was nice to have Coulson call S.H.I.E.L.D. the full Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division name, along with mentioning Fury's then new plan to gather superpower. I think I can understand the connection because at the end of Iron Man 1, Coulson calls it S.H.I.E.L.D., but then also the post-credit scene, you have Mr. Stark, you've been a part of a bigger universe, you just don't know it yet. So people assume that's when the Avengers Initiative starts. And then, of course, in the Incredible Hulk later that year, RDJ, as Tony Stark, comes up to Ross and tells him about the Avengers Initiative. So people just assume that that's when it begins. Not necessarily the case with what we come to know later on in the movie franchise. In the present day, it was interesting to see May begin to actively doubt Coulson when she learned about Theta Protocol and secrets he was keeping from her and everyone else, including his use of Deathlock. We have a lot of moving parts here with Gonzalez's shield, Coulson's tiny on-the-run crew, and Skye and the Inhumans all spread out, presumably leading them all coming together by the end of the season. You have no idea. Once again, S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 is moving quickly, with Jiaying already revealing she is Skye's mother to her, when it seemed that might be a secret for a while. Jiaying revealed she and Cal were ruthless, quote-unquote, together, searching the sky, Searching for Sky does help somewhat explain what we've heard about them back in season 1, though I do hope we get a better idea of what that means. Oh, you will. I liked when Gordon lashed out at Lincoln with, "What do you know about changes?" given Lincoln is still a handsome guy, while Gordon and Raina both ended up physically transformed after being exposed to the mists. It was a humanizing moment for Gordon, who's seemed pretty zen and mellow so far. Okay. Now let's look at Oliver AV Club. He called it a B+. The MCU is sorely lacking in female heroes, but AOS is one big exception. I've spent much of last week engrossed in the testosterone-driven world of Netflix's Daredevil. Remember, it just came out when this was airing. Mm-hmm. And while the show has some captivating female characters, they end up as victims quite a bit, and are certainly not cast in action hero roles. Agent Carter had Peggy and Dottie kicking ass, but that show was also dominated by men, a deliberate decision reinforcing the patriarchal environment that wouldn't allow Peggy to realize her full potential. And when it comes to relationships between women, both of those series are seriously lagging behind Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The women of the cast are in charge in Melinda, an episode that specifically spotlights May and Sky. Simmons, Bobby, and Raina also play significant supporting roles in the narrative, but most of the primary male characters sit out of the main action. I didn't even realize that. I'm like, wait a minute. Huh. That's true. All the guys are not here.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Coulson appears in the flashbacks, which finally reveal the events of Bahrain that led to May leaving active S.H.I.E.L.D. duty 7 years ago, but he doesn't come into the present day plot until the episode's final moments, bringing Fitz and Hunter with him. A heavy female presence is appropriate for an episode that deals with motherhood as a major theme, detailing how past trauma impacted May's desire to be a parent, while Sky gets to know the mother she never thought she'd meet. Ugh. I didn't even... That's a great one, too. I couldn't have put that better myself if I tried. That's a great way of looking at it. The story of how May came to be called the Cavalry has been a long time coming, and it's as painful as the hints in past chapters have suggested. The episode begins 7 years ago. Did it say 7 years ago?
Did it?
Did I miss that? Did it say 7 years ago in the episode? Hold on. Let me pause. I'm gonna restart the episode on my end, and I want to see if it actually said that it was 7 years ago, because I didn't catch that. Did you see that?
I did not catch that at all.
So let me see here. I'm at the beginning of the episode, and I'm playing it again, and then it says, I'm waiting for a timestamp. I see May and... Oh, okay. So it does say 7 years ago. Okay. So it did say that. So, So if this is taking place in 2015...
2008?
Thank you. Because like I've been doing math with kids all day.
7 or 8.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it right now. 15 minus 7 is 8. Right? So it'll be 2008?
Yeah, 2008, maybe 2007, depending on like the month or something. I don't know.
That's interesting. Okay. So, okay. Then this would be 2008 then. Not the 90s, as I imagined it would be. Okay.
But it would still take place before Iron Man, though, because...
Yes, for sure. Yeah. At this point, yeah. Okay, so at least we have that clarification. All right. That was bugging me.
Yeah, we completely missed it.
Okay. So he says here that the episode begins 7 years ago with May and her husband, then husband Andrew, having a tender moment in the shower, establishing that the two want to start a family and are very committed to making that happen. It's a happy version of May that we've seen once before, when Andrew was brought in to help with Sky's psych evaluation and showing his cheerful, optimistic past. May sets a strong point of contrast for the broken, sad woman that comes back from Bahrain. S.H.I.E.L.D. is sent to Bahrain to retrieve a superpowered Russian woman by the name of Ava Belyakov, but their mission quickly goes south. The little girl that May is so eager to save is actually the young Inhuman daughter of Eva, also an Inhuman, who had her child undergo pterogenesis before she was ready. This drove the young girl insane, which caused even more problems when combined with a superpower that allowed her to manipulate the emotions of others after just one touch. May doesn't know this, though, so when the backed up squad of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are taken out, she goes in on her own to save the little girl. One of the best things about Daredevil is its action, and I was worried that I would be severely underwhelmed by May and Bahrain after watching Matt Murdock make his way through intricately choreographed fight sequences. But S.H.I.E.L.D.'s creative team understands that this is a big moment for May and makes sure that the violence hits hard. May's skills are impressive as she takes out the men standing guard, but there's nothing flashy about the action, and her big fight with Ava focuses on brute force rather than spectacular movement. The violence isn't glorified because the entire story is about the damaging effects of violence on mental and emotional health. May is trained to fight adult spies and soldiers and criminals, not insane children with superpowers. But in order to save the lives of all the people under Katya's control, May has to put a bullet in the little girl that moments ago she was trying to save. It's a decision that changes the course of May's entire life, and when we see her back at home, she's lost her former glow. She showers alone. And when Andrew tries to touch her hand, all she can think of is Katya's hand reaching for her. Yikes. Oh man, we don't learn the specifics of why their marriage falls apart, but I don't think it's wrong to assume that May wasn't interested in starting a family anymore after killing a child, and likely pushed Andrew away because she knew she couldn't give him what he wanted. May's marriage crumbled after Bahrain, but the events of that day 7 years ago have a significant impact on Skye as well. After a few sessions helping her daughter get a better grip on her powers, Jiaying reveals herself as Skye's mother. But they have to keep their true bond a secret because of what happened with Ava and Katya. The people of Jiaying's camp already disapprove of Skye because she went through the mist without the traditional preparation. And if Skye's relationship to Jiaying is revealed, it will bring up past memories of the mother-daughter pair that put the Inhumans at risk years ago. Chloe Bennett has been, by the way, he's been a critic of her performance since the very beginning. Chloe Bennett has been steadily improving as Skye, and she gets the opportunity to show a lot of different sides of her character as Skye goes on an emotional roller coaster. Bennett finally gets to express some joy after episodes of brooding with Skye unleashes her full power on the side of a mountain. Great scene, by the way. Without fear of damage to others or herself, and taps into the character's abandonment issues with a speech detailing Skye's bad luck with settling down, and unleashes a wave of different emotions when Jiaying reveals her true role in Skye's life. All she wanted was to know her mother and father, and by the end of the episode, Skye is sitting down for dinner with mom and dad. Her mother may be the leader of a race of superpowered beings, and her father may be a mad scientist, but Skye has her real family now, and that makes her happy. When Jiaying trains Skye, Gordon is trying to mentor Raina, who can't rise above her self-pity. It doesn't help that Skye is able to walk around outside while Raina is prohibited from leaving her residence. Treated like an animal, even though people keep telling her that she should be accepted, that she's become an Inhuman, how can she hold on to her humanity when she's kept in a cage? Gordon tries to tell Raina that there are gifts. By the way, there was a really good sequence there that we kind of were talking over, but when he says to her some really nice things, and it was a really good moment on Gordon's part. Gordon tries to tell Raina that there are gifts hiding underneath her physical changes, but she's too caught up in her own appearance and her nightmares to take the steps needed to regain her self-worth and discover her true power. And then again, maybe she's already discovered her power, but she doesn't know it yet. When Lincoln sees Sky, Cal, and Jiaying reenacting a scene from Reina's dream, he believes it is evidence of precognitive abilities, something that would be very useful to the Inhumans as they safeguard themselves against forces that want to control them. Stray observations. Could the Theta Protocol be the first steps forward introducing Avengers Academy into the MCU? Nope. Using vibrating glasses of water to trade Sky is a very smart way of exploring her powers, using an easy practical effect. Oh, more of this, please. What do you know about changes? It looks like there's some animosity between Inhumans that experienced drastic physical changes during Genesis and those that kept their former appearance while gaining superpowers. I hope that gets more attention in the future. Your gift is quite destructive, but look at the music you can make, is what Jiaying says to Sky. All right, let's go to Ami.
Damn it, I just want to watch the next episode. Man, actually getting to rewind and see what actually happened in May's iconic story. The whole cavalry incident, we've had our allusions to it, and getting it recontextualized like this, the fact that it was one of them. Not only one of them, it was technically two of them. The trauma of it all, she can't reconcile with what really happened as much as she tried to hide from it. The story, she couldn't stop the story. It was just like the humbleness of it is what they kind of saw it as, and then it just inflated and inflated and inflated because none of them witnessed it because they were mind controlled by this kid. She could like absorb and feel other people's emotions. It was wild, man. They were like, hey, this girl probably shouldn't go through the mist. She's a little not okay. And the mother was like, no, I need her to get this gift, blah, 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 boom, bam, bad things happened. That's why she's like, hey, we know what happens when that can be the case. And if they learn that I'm your mother and that you cheated the system and went around this whole way, they can view it exactly as that. Just this mishandling of the order for selfish reasons. So that's interesting. The reveal came so swiftly, too. When they were kind of talking to each other in the beginning of this episode. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to linger that much longer, but it was just right there. We'll do a little training here and there, and then boom, big old reveal. Then you have Reina and her again struggling with what's happened to her, figuring out where she fits in and all this, and then what her gift really is. Them trying to figure it out, and her constant she keeps bringing it up her dreams. She can sleep fine, but she's always haunted by these dreams. She keeps dreaming of this image of Sky with her family, this perfect little night, all in all, when they both went through at the same time, and she's unchanged physically, and then she's getting reunited with her family. She's able to walk in the sun, all these things that Reina can't do right now. So in essence, you could write that off as just her mind, her psyche being jealous and upset about what happened to her versus what happened to Sky, when it turns out it is simply a vision of the future. So what else can we learn from that? And then what is the significance of this meaning other than to taunt her? Kind of. And this more's got to come from that as well. I like that her mother too, acknowledges that her father has changed. He has done some crazy ass shit, but at the end of the day, it was for all of them, and that maybe we should give him a little bit of a leniency, at least for a moment, for all of that effort. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what he did, it brought them back together. With Sky getting to learn all this stuff about herself, finally having her family here, I just want to know how that's all going to go. What's going to be the long haul for all of this? Honestly, I feel like obviously the secret's going to get out. Lincoln just stumbled upon this, so I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he'll go back to Reina. Maybe he'll talk to her about it. Is he going to get upset? Is he going to get jealous? How's Gordon going to feel when he figures this out if he doesn't already know? Because people in the village already are pretty upset, especially mostly the unturned, the people that have been waiting decades, centuries, whatever, to finally go through the process. And then, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, again, Sky, and she was talking about every place that started to feel like a home, something happens. And I thought I had a stable place with S.H.I.E.L.D., but lo and behold, it ended up with me getting hunted. Is that just foreshadowing again here this peaceful reprieve, this paradise that's got her family, it's brought her all together. She's got everything she's ever wanted here. Knowledge about herself, getting to actually meet her mother, understand her father, all these things. And I feel like it's going to crumble real fast in these next couple of episodes. And then on the other side of it, on the S.H.I.E.L.D. side of these things, we have this revelation that Coulson has been running this secret operation or project where he's setting up and diverting a shit ton of their resources towards bunks, a new location, masking their little science projects as things that they are not when they are actually upgrades for Mike Peterson. And he's kept this from even May. So now we got this little wedge in their trust right now where we've got this tension building up between our people who were initially with Coulson trying to wrestle with this new information and, you know, trying to find out whether or not what they're being told is even true, and, you know, find out the reason for it, because they're trying to at least hold on to the fact that it's like, hey, if he kept all this a secret, like, we've got to believe that there was a reason that he did that. I don't believe Coulson is just like a free agent just going off doing whatever the fuck he wants. Obviously, we don't know what all is in the box itself, but, you know, what Fury gave him, what tools what he's actually doing with it outside of that. And then, I don't know, they're trying to connect it to all these other things, like with the alien DNA, the writing, the underground city, and all of that. I don't know how all these pieces are going to fall into place. I mean, we'll figure it out. He's got the box. He's managed to open it. He's made contact with Coulson and Hunter, and we'll kind of convene it. But our team is divided right now, which is... It's got me a little nervous. Not even going to lie.
Yeah, more or less what we've been saying. David, I'll go to you here. Any last thoughts?
Just the fact that I didn't notice a lot of these double meanings.
Yeah.
I caught the Zhang, or no. Porcupine lady. No.
Raina.
Oh my god!
It's a lot of names.
Raina. That one I caught. You know, she's like, she's saying like, I keep dreaming of Sky having dinner and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, you obviously would see that as her just being resentful of the fact that Sky is having everything she ever wanted, or like Sky is having everything that Raina wanted and all that blah blah blah. But then you see later on, it's like, no, it's part of her powers. She's clairvoyant. But then
she's the real clairvoyant.
Yeah, she's the real clairvoyant and all that. But in the review that you read, them mentioning the fact that basically two types of different like mother stories with Jiaying and Mei and all that.
Yeah.
Like one and all that. Like that's really cool. He mentioned one. Oh no, he mentioned the Reina one and all that, but just again, it's like, how do you even think of that in writing this episode? You're trying to get to like, you know, okay, we just gotta get through getting this story done and all that. You know, a lot of these shows, like you kind of see moments of like they're kind of to rush certain things, like they gotta put this in because it's gonna be important for a later episode and all that. Like you can see if you rewatch the show, I guess you'll see moments of like, okay, they were just trying to like wrap this up real quick or something like that because maybe they couldn't do it or something, I don't know. But this one, no, they're really taking their time to set up whatever they can and just kind of like maybe like having fun, I guess you could say, of like what they're working with and all that, which is like that's kind of the thing that's missing with the current MCU and all that. It's like, I don't feel like you're having fun with the things that you're playing with. You know, you're just so focused on trying to get it out and just not taking advantage of anything. You know, it's so annoying, especially. I mean, we already talked about this with Captain America, but you're just kind of like, what was the point of having Sam Wilson in this? He was doing nothing, and what you did with him, it felt confusing. Like,
yeah, it's like, I mean, I know that a lot on this reaction show we've really have flat out attacked the Marvel films from the perspective of VFX, because lately they've looked pretty bad in comparison to this little TV show that had like what, a sliver of a fraction of the budget that these movies have. And there's no excuse why a so-called low-budget TV show should look better than a $200, $300, $400 million movie, right? Then also, when it comes down to it, stories like these come down to character, themes, and arcs. It has become abundantly clear, at least to me, maybe to you as well, that now having seen basically any MCU movie after Endgame especially, there is very to little thought, if at all, put into character. Obviously nothing put into arc.
No, yeah.
Much less theme. You know, hilariously, I think like the only MCU movies post Endgame that you can even accuse of, well, at least there was like an attempt of having themes and arcs in there. Eternals, Thor Love and Thunder, for sure, has like themes and arcs in there. I think Wakanda Forever qualifies too. No, I'm not saying they were all equally successful. I'm just saying I'm trying to pinpoint the specific projects that I can detect a genuine attempt at character and arcs. So there are those three. I guess you can say No Way Home falls into it. I don't particularly care for that movie. Oh, maybe Doctor Strange. Sam Raimi put in a little bit of what he could with Strange. Although again, that even is like very like it's barely there at all. Honestly,
it's barely there,
yeah.
But it's also, I hate to say this word, but like it's pretty basic. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
which is what he could do. It's the best he could do because the system wouldn't allow him to actually make a Doctor Strange movie because it really wasn't a Doctor Strange movie. And this is the point that we are. We are having MCU movies with titles of what we think are supposed to be the main character, and no, it just ends up being that the character is just there. The character is there, and the character is the same at the end as he was at the beginning. The characters do not change. Meanwhile, a whole bunch of hoopla happens, and it doesn't even mean anything. How is Peter Parker really different at the end of No Way Home than he is at the beginning? And he also comes across as a bit of a moron with like, he causes all the bad things.
And oh my gosh, that annoyed me so much in that movie because like when I was trying to like explain this when it first came out, but I couldn't process like how to explain it. But basically, in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, why did Green Goblin attack Aunt May? It's because he saw a cut on Peter's arm, which he gave to Spider-Man. It was just two connections. He took a big leap and that's it. But it was out of Peter's control that he figured it out. It wasn't because, he revealed it. It wasn't because someone else revealed it for him. He just figured it out. And then afterwards, why did he go after MJ? Because his son caught MJ and Peter together holding hands and all that. And he told his dad, like, hey, Peter still has feelings for MJ and all that. And he goes, really? Basically, and all that. No Way Home. He brings everyone to his apartment. Not even his apartment. It was Happy's apartment and all that. And just causes all chaos. And because he brought it in there, they were close to MA, and then she died. And then the fans ruin it because they're like, yay, he's suffering. It's like, what the fuck would you even be happy about that? But also, though,
if you're going to make a character suffer, at least make it make any bit of coherent sense. There wasn't any bit of that at all.
I mean, it's just, again, with the Sam Raimi's, it's like he, the girl of his dreams is telling him like, hey, I want to be with you and all that, but he's like, I can't because he, taking responsibility of his powers and all that, it's gonna cause her to put her in danger and all that. But again, these are things that are out of his control, and he kind of has to think about that. This one, with No Way Home, he was in full control. He caused everything, and therefore he has to lose everything afterwards.
Yeah. I should also mention, those are just the movies. There have been some shows, in quotation marks, because some of them don't even feel like shows, they just feel like movies, but longer, that actually do have character and themes and arcs. WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, Miss Marvel had that. Not the whole way through, but it had a little bit of that. Moon Knight. So they're like Hawkeye. You can even had like an emphasis a little bit on character there too. So it wasn't like a complete like, out of the gate like dumpster fire shit show. But now, like, things have disassembled so like rapidly. Like, they're having a hard time putting together movies, let alone making them good. Like, it's been like a good 2 years now of like, oh God.
I mean,
like
Blade.
the Marvel's own Blade doesn't even exist, and that's the point that you're making, sure. But like with the new Captain America movie, I think they're just happy. Wow,
we got something out.
we got it out.
Yeah,
that's the accomplishment. Yeah. That is how far they have fallen. It's like, wow, we were actually able to make a movie. Yay us!
Mm-hmm. And then what is the biggest reason? I don't care what anyone says. It's not because of woke bullshit. It's not because he's trying to push women into the forefront. It is not because of that. It is because he doesn't want to end this franchise. But guess what? You need to think about the ending, because your actors are not going to be in these movies forever. They want to do other things. They can't play these characters.
Yeah, specifically, I would say, look, I mean, wokeness and all that, whatever. The thing is this. Kevin Feige and the way that he makes movies is ultimately the problem with everything, because every major project has had big issues. He is guiding everything. He is at fault. He is basically, at this point, kind of like, I mean, with the amount of fuck-ups that have happened, people want to say like woke this, woke that. Well, what about good old misogyny? Like, Kathleen Kennedy is not somebody who is like completely like faultless with how Lucasfilm has been run, but like with the amount of hate that gets thrown her way, what about Kevin Feige? I feel like at this point, it's come down to this: the system in which Kevin Feige has set up to make movies no longer functions. And he has been exposed as not really knowing how to resolve all of the issues that he himself created. That's where we're at here, ultimately. And it comes down to him wanting to control every aspect, him making all the calls, and not actually bringing forth talent, let alone visionary directors, but just talent. Like, Ona, whoever it was that directed Brave New World, what did he make? The Cloverfield Paradox. So the least successful Cloverfield movie, and you're like, that's the guy I want to have direct Captain America. At least Kathleen Kennedy went for some like talent.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige is just like, let's get a third-rate TV person. You're hired.
And
then also, what is the thing that they blame Kathy for not doing with the sequel trilogy? A plan. You had to have a plan. Where was the plan? What is the plan, Kevin? How many years hasn't been since Endgame? Where is the plan? Where is this going? Where are those people right now? Not shouting in Kevin's ear the way they were literally beating Kathy in the face.
No, yeah.
In an uppercut fashion.
I mean, mind you, he had a tiny plan, which is to bring Kang in and all that. But even that got messy. And not because of what happened with the actor.
Even that was incoherent, though. Like, where was that going to go?
Yeah, even that was incoherent. He fucking went big on it and all that. But first of all, why the fuck? If the Kang was your big villain, why the fuck would you put him in an Ant-Man movie? And like have him lose to really
Ant-Man
to one of the weakest character, honestly. If Kang went up with like a Black Widow or something, that I can be like, Sure, why not? She's a main Avenger and all that. But Ant-Man, I'm sorry, like I love Paul Rudd, but you can't go up against really one of the big main Avengers villains and all that. Not alone, at least. And then when you do use him, it's not really creative. You know, I mentioned this in the podcast, but like I actually would have really liked it if every MCU movie Kang was the villain, but like you know it's a different version of Kang every single time, and like every time they fought him, they each lost someone, whether it's a loved one or they got badly wounded or something like that. And so then when they go up against Kang in the Avengers movie, and they're like, this is actually like the leader of all of them, they're all gonna be like, oh shoot, like, we all lost something fighting one of them. We're gonna have to deal with multiple, possibly. We're gonna have to deal with the biggest one. We might not make it out of this. That's a big idea right there. I don't even think any actor would want to try to do with whoever would have played Kang. But still, you could have gotten pretty creative with it. And what I mean by like, he doesn't want to end this with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and with really any other cable show. Each season could be their last season. And so they specifically write it so that when they make it, because they find out maybe halfway through their season and all that. And
this show never did.
Yeah.
This show never did. They always found out probably up until they're writing the very last episode of a season is when they find out, if that. Most times they would find out after it was already written and shot, not knowing if they would come back.
Yeah, either way though, like they're keeping in mind though that, okay, this is gonna be their last season. We gotta really mark an end to it. Make it good enough so people can rewatch it and all that. That's what every writer has to keep in mind and all that. Because they're not ending the MCU, they're just stagnant. Each and every character, they can't take them forward because they might want to retract something. Which, mind you, that's okay to do. Like, it's okay, have one hero learn the lesson of like, I should focus more on my family, and then 5 movies down the line or something, he's back to his old self. It's like, oh no, he's ignoring his family to do the superhero stuff and all that, blah blah blah. It's like that's perfectly fine, especially if you try to do like a reboot and all that. I mean, how many times does any other show have like a will they won't they couple? It's like, yeah, they got together at the end of the season, but then the next season starts. Oh, they're
there's just no longer any intrigue or any fascination with anything involving the MCU. It's like I played that clip the other podcast that we still haven't released yet. At some point it will be released, I think. But yeah, I think all of our things would be perfectly summed up there. But let's just cut it off here before we stay another hour, because we probably could go on for another hour there. But of course, if those of you who are watching or listening are interested in our thoughts about Brave New World or current MCU going-ons, catch our soon to be next podcast, 499 on Red Spotlight here on this very same channel. Thank you, David, for being here. Thank you all for watching, listening. We will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.